You got the drop on 50 Cent one time?
We thought we did until we got in there. Mike called us, told he was up there. I got up there. We got up there, we came in and strapped to they thigh, bullies on them, semis on them, magazine cartridges. I said, yeah, he ain't slipping.
Today's not the day.
Nah, 50 moved different, he moved different.
And did 50
I'm glad
see
that
you?
didn't happen though, he see me. But he didn't know that's what we was on. We never approached you. I'm glad it never happened.
People often say that 50 Cent is one of the smartest figures in the rap world, and Wack100 found that out the hard way. Tony Yayo even spelled it out clearly. G-Unit never had to check in with anyone, period. He described them as a fully militant unit whenever they were moving around the country. And as for 50 himself, his mindset left no room for confusion.
Taught us that, not trying to throw shots at people. Sure. But you could not do nothing to him.
I come from a place where you have to be ready. Don't get ready, you need to stay ready. That wasn't just talk. So when Wack100 tried to apply pressure on 50 Cent and shake him down, he clearly underestimated the response. Here's what went down. Wack100 was talking on Clubhouse like he often does when he suddenly shared a surprising story about 50 Cent. He took it back to the days when 50 was still in conflict with the Game, a former G-Unit member. Since Wack was managing the Game at the time, he decided to get involved almost like he was trying to play the role of an enforcer. According to Wack, he got word that 50 Cent was at the SLS Hotel in Los Angeles hanging out at the bar. Thinking this was his chance to confront him, Wack showed up with a crew of about 10 people, expecting to make a bold statement. But the moment they entered, something felt off. The atmosphere was tense, and that's when Wack realized 50 wasn't there by himself, not even close. He was surrounded by a group of men who looked like trained professionals, 8 of them giving off serious military or special ops vibes. Wack recalled what 50 did next, describing it as nothing short of gangster.
We thought we did.
Right.
We thought we did. Until we got in there.
He still sounded shaken just recalling the scene. It became clear that 50 Cent was several steps ahead. Wack had walked right into a situation he never saw coming. Those men with 50 weren't just bodyguards, they moved like a coordinated tactical unit. They were armed, alert, and locked in as if they were anticipating trouble. That's when it hit Wack. 50 didn't get caught off guard, he had planned for this. In fact, Wack began to wonder if 50 had orchestrated the whole thing deliberately just to make a point about who was really in control. Now, here's where things get complicated. Some people viewed Wack's hotel visit as an attempt to pressure or even extort 50 Cent, especially because 50 never made it a habit to check in while in Los Angeles. Wack, on the other hand, constantly talks about the importance of checking in. He tries to make it sound casual, like it's just giving folks a heads up when you're in town. He even says he checks in himself whenever he travels, throwing out lines like, "I might be down there Friday," but anyone familiar with how things really work in the streets knows that checking in means more than just saying hello. In the rap game, especially in cities with heavy gang activity, checking in typically means reaching out to the local power players to get permission to move around safely. And that kind of permission doesn't always come free. It could involve paying money, doing a verse for a local artist, offering some type of favor, whatever the people in charge demand. Some call it showing respect, like, "Hey, I'm in your city, all love." But if it's really just about respect, then why do threats follow when someone refuses to check in, especially in law? A few artists go along with it, teaming up with local gangs for protection, kind of like street-level security. But not everyone plays by those rules. 50 Cent, for one, has made it very clear that he doesn't operate that way. And it wasn't just Wack100 who tried to press him. Suge Knight made a move to that Suge Knight. The tension between them goes way back, long before 50 even rose to fame.
Mike called us, told he was up there. I got up there. He came in.
How deep were you?
About 15.
15 people.
Yeah, we wasn't that deep.
It all started when Dr. Dre left Death Row and began building his own empire. Suge didn't take that well. Then Dre signed Eminem, and when Eminem brought 50 into the Aftermath camp, it was like adding fuel to the fire. Suge had held a long-standing grudge against Dre, and when 50 and M became closely tied to him, they inherited that conflict. Suge wasn't the type to let go of old issues. He made it known that he was still around watching and ready to stir things up. One of the most intense moments came during the Club video shoot. Everything was on schedule. cameras rolling, energy high, until someone suddenly shouted, "Suge Knight is here." That single announcement changed the whole mood. Panic spread instantly, and Suge didn't show up alone. He arrived with a crew of about 30 people, reportedly including members of a well-known Mexican gang. It was pure intimidation, textbook Suge. He didn't need to say a word. Just his presence sent a clear message, and it rattled everyone there. People scattered, 50, and his team headed outside, prepared for anything. That was Suge's style, showing up unexpectedly, making his presence felt, and sending a silent warning. But things escalated even further at the 2000 for Vibe Awards. That evening was supposed to be a celebration. Dr. Dre was being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Snoop Dogg and Quincy Jones were set to present it. Everything was in place for a major moment in hip-hop history. Then, out of nowhere, a man named Jimmy James Johnson walked up to Dre as if he was about to ask for an autograph. Instead, he punched him right on stage. In an instant, chaos erupted. Screaming, flying chairs, and a crowd of over 1,000 people trying to rush out in panic. Right in the middle of the commotion, young Buck reportedly pulled a knife and started swinging it. Later reports confirmed that Buck stabbed Johnson, supposedly, while trying to protect Dre, and he wasn't the only one who stepped in.
We got up there, we came in, and shit. You had Navy SEALs with him. 2 in all directions. Bob was about 6 up.
Johnson was attacked by several people in the crowd before things finally calmed down. The situation quickly turned into a serious legal matter. Arrest warrants were issued, and young Buck ended up facing charges. As for whether Suge Knight was behind it all, nothing was confirmed, but many signs seemed to point his way. Tony Yayo even shared that shortly after the chaos, he saw Suge Knight and Irv Gotti casually walking past the G-Unit trailer, looking like they were observing everything unfold with amused expressions. That moment alone raised suspicions. Seeing Suge and Irv just strolling by sent a clear signal that something behind the scenes didn't feel right. And 50, he wasn't about to be caught slipping. As soon as he sensed rising tensions, he acted fast. Reportedly, he told his team to go out and buy multiple knives. That's how serious it felt. The atmosphere was tense, and 50 wasn't willing to take any chances. It turned out to be the right call. In the aftermath, Tony Yayo received 3 years of probation and was ordered to complete 80 hours of community service for his involvement in the incident. The whole situation served as a reminder 50 Cent takes security seriously. He's always been known for surrounding himself with dependable people, not just hired help, but individuals with street awareness and loyalty, always prepared to protect him at a moment's notice.
Respect to Eminem, 50, and that was with us. So Suge came, he had some Mexican niggas. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. Slice the cigar, and it's the shit about Suge. He liked the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do.
One name that consistently stands out is Monster. If you know, you know. Monster wasn't your typical bodyguard in the background. He was 50's go-to guy, his muscle and close protection. If 50 was around, Monster was never far off. Always observing, always on alert, quiet, but clearly not someone to underestimate. Monster was a silent force. No showboating, no unnecessary attention, just business. He stayed under the radar, which is why there isn't much public information about him. But if you've seen any of 50's older behind-the-scenes clips or club appearances, chances are you've spotted Monster in the background, watching everything closely. There's even a clip of 50 walking through an airport surrounded by paparazzi. And Monster can be seen stepping in to block the cameras, keeping the space secure. Whether 50 was at a club or on stage, Monster was nearby, scanning the environment to make sure everything stayed under control. During a moment of tension with Trav on stage, Monster was visibly focused, monitoring every move and ready to step in if things escalated. For years, he operated like 50's personal security shadow, present, calm, but always prepared. There were even claims that 50 Cent had a video removed from a well-known YouTube channel called Infominds because it allegedly showed something Monster did on 50's behalf. Whatever it was, 50 apparently didn't want that footage circulating. Infominds made a name by producing deep dive street documentaries, and one of their videos seemed to hit a nerve. It reportedly detailed 50 Cent's real security setup and highlighted Monster's key role as an enforcer. They didn't just mention him, they included photos of Monster with 50 in various settings and explained how he played a major part in keeping everything secure behind the scenes. But perhaps the most controversial part, the video allegedly revealed a crime that 50 Cent was somehow connected to.
You can see a shiny knife in his right hand. He lunges over the top with a stabbing motion. Police say that is 23-year-old young buck who then vanished.
According to reports, the video provided a detailed breakdown of the incident between 50 Cent and Slowbucks at Hot 97 East Summer Jam in 2014. That was the same event where Slowbucks was punched and had his chain taken on stage in full view of the crowd. Infomines allegedly documented the full timeline, outlining where everyone was and exactly how the incident unfolded.
I wouldn't say we were scared, but it was the Vibe Awards when we seen Suge Knight and Irv Gotti, and they walked past the trailer.
50 Cent reportedly contacted Infomines directly, requesting that they remove the video. Not long after, it disappeared from the channel. That action raised questions if there was nothing to hide. Why take it down? Monster's loyalty to 50 Cent came with serious consequences. Being his protector wasn't just about standing by looking intimidating, it meant dealing with real conflict, and that often brought legal trouble. Over the years, Monster faced multiple assault charges for confronting people who got too close to 50. One of the most talked about incidents happened in 2010 in Copenhagen, Denmark. Monster was charged with assault after allegedly attacking two photographers outside the hotel Petri. The New York Daily News reported on it extensively. A photographer named Nicolo Era told Radar Online that things escalated quickly. He claimed that one of 50's bodyguards came out and told them to leave. Then, according to Era, he grabbed my throat, tried to choke me, cut off my breathing, and took my camera to delete the photos. During that time, 50 apparently just looked over at James Cruz and said, "Yo, go buy 20 knives." They went to a hardware store. It was around 15 to 20 of them in the crew. Meanwhile, Suge Knight reportedly showed up with some menacing individuals who looked like they were straight out of Compton. That incident caught international attention and highlighted how far Monster was willing to go to protect 50 Cent. Whether it was a real danger or just flashing cameras, Monster didn't take chances. Era said he was so shaken afterward that he went straight to the hospital, then to the police to file a report and get the necessary documentation done. He made it clear he wasn't letting it go, but all this raises a question: why does 50 Cent keep such heavy security? Some people mock him for it, even accusing him of hiring off-duty police officers. They see it as overkill, but others believe it's the smart move. When you've lived the kind of life 50 has, you don't leave anything to chance. Especially considering what happened to him. He was shot 9 times. That kind of trauma stays with you, and when people talk about that dark chapter, one name always surfaces: Supreme McGriff. Let's go back to the 1980s when Supreme founded the Supreme Team, a notorious gang based in Jamaica, Queens. Under his leadership, they dominated the local streets. At their peak, the crew reportedly included hundreds of members and maintained control of the crack cocaine trade in the Baisley Park housing projects, where 50 grew up. At one point, the operation was said to be making around $200,000 per day, a level of control few could match. But in 1987, McGriff was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He was released on parole in 1994, but didn't stay free for long. By the end of that same year, he was back behind bars. It wasn't until 1997 that McGriff managed to clear some of his legal issues and attempted a comeback, this time trying to break into the music business.
Honestly, like the smallest, biggest security I ever know. Like his presence is big as fuck.
That's when he connected with Joel Rule and the Murder Inc. crew. Supreme became one of their main street enforcers, looking after the label's artists and keeping threats at a distance. Early on, the dynamic between 50 and Supreme was still good. At that point, 50 wasn't a major figure. He was still working to carve out his place in the industry. Meanwhile, Joel Rule was already climbing the charts. Hungry to get noticed, 50 decided to stir things up by taking shots at the entire industry on his track How to Rob. That move marked the beginning of rising tensions. Eventually, a full-blown feud with Joel Rule followed. According to 50, it started when his associate Troy robbed Ya. Later, when the two crossed paths at a club, 50 attempted to make peace, but Ya wasn't open to it. He believed 50 had a role in the robbery. Ya later admitted that the robbery did occur, but said he never saw 50 with the person responsible. "I didn't even know," he said. But by that point, the tension had already escalated. That's when Supreme stepped in, telling 50 to stop going after Ja Rule. Since Supreme was someone 50 had once respected, he agreed at least temporarily. Still, he continued to take indirect shots in his music. Then in 1999, tragedy struck both men. Their mutual friend, Black Just, was killed.
What up, 50?
Yo, what up, 50? What up, man? How are you? So, 50, real quick.
Reports say that rapper E-Money had given Supreme a deposit for a car. But when he later asked for his money back, Supreme brushed it off, laughing. E-Money didn't take it lightly. One day, he allegedly opened fire on Supreme while he was in a car with Black Just, and the confrontation turned deadly. Black Just was hit twice, one bullet even struck his thigh. Instead of taking Just straight to the hospital, which was nearby, Supreme drove back to the neighborhood and asked someone else to take him. That delay ended up costing Just his life. From that point on, E-Money had serious enemies on the streets. Meanwhile, the conflict between 50 Cent and Ja Rule kept escalating. Supreme remained firmly loyal to Ya, repeatedly encouraging 50 to let the feud go. But 50 wasn't interested. He didn't like that Supreme consistently took Ya's side, especially when 50 felt he'd been the one disrespected from the beginning. And to be honest, Supreme never really saw 50 as the future of anything. He already had Ja Rule, who was generating serious money, so switching sides just didn't make sense to him.
Hold on. Y'all better stop this.
Things eventually reached a new level of disrespect. One night, 50 and Ja Rule performed at the same club and a fight broke out. During the chaos, 50 ended up with Ja Rule's chain. He later showed it off in his Life's on the Line video. Treating it like a trophy and undeniable public embarrassment for Ya. Naturally, Ya went straight to Supreme, hoping he could help recover the chain. But by then, Supreme was done trying to mediate. It was the second time he had to step in and clean up his mess. Now, 50 was going after Ja Rule's image in public, and Supreme had enough. Meanwhile, 50 had no intentions of slowing down. He was completely focused on dismantling Murder Inc., and his relationship with Supreme was rapidly falling apart.
Hey, this is 50 though.
Tony Yale once recounted one of the last confrontations between 50 Cent and Supreme, where 50 made it clear face to face that he was no longer afraid of him. The tension was real. To add more pressure, 50 started spending time with E-Money Big Nose Troy, and green-eyed born individuals who had long-standing conflicts with Supreme. That move alone significantly intensified the situation. Then 50 released the now infamous track Ghetto Quran, which tied him directly to street narratives. The song made its way back to Supreme quickly, especially since 50 mentioned specific names, including Supreme's. That didn't sit well with him at all.
Serious video that vanished from InfoMind's channel was about none other than 50 Cent.
Later, 50 pointed out that other rappers had referenced Supreme and his past, and Supreme had no issue with it. In fact, he seemed to welcome the recognition. But when 50 did it, it felt different. It pushed their already fragile relationship closer to collapse. While Ghetto Quran was seen by many street figures in New York as a form of homage, a way of recognizing key players and preserving history, Supreme didn't interpret it that way. He believed 50 had revealed too much and was furious. Around that same period, someone made an attempt on Supreme's life at a gas station. He survived, but he didn't forget. He reportedly believed 50 was behind the hit. That's when he decided to strike back, allegedly targeting 50. Supreme is said to have hired Daryl Homo Baum, a former bodyguard of Mike Tyson, to carry out the hit. According to reports, he paid a substantial amount to have 50 taken out.
This is what InfoMinds did. He would show pictures of 50 Cent, different pictures of 50 Cent in regular settings, right? Until InfoMinds highlighted this guy that was in like every picture.
Then came May 24th, 2000, a date that would mark a turning point in hip-hop. 50 Cent had just left his grandmother's home, where his son was still inside and his grandmother was standing out front. As he got into the backseat of a vehicle, another car pulled up unexpectedly. A man stepped out, approached the window, and fired 9 rounds from a 9mm handgun. 50 was struck in the hand, arm, hip, both legs, chest, and even his left cheek. One bullet came dangerously close to a major artery just a few inches higher, and it could have been fatal. But against all odds, he survived. After 3 grueling weeks in the hospital and undergoing multiple surgeries, he recovered. That incident became one of hip-hop's most well-known survival stories.
Remember that shit that happened to Slow Bucks on that stage? Info Mind's documentary had footage from that Slow Buck situation. He was highlighting niggas and shit.
3 years later, 50 released Many Men, and in it, he named Homo as the shooter. By that time, however, Homo had already been killed allegedly due to separate street retaliation, not because of 50. While 50 managed to survive, many of his enemies did not. In July 2001, E-Moneybags was found dead in his Lincoln Navigator. Rumors swirled, some claimed it was payback for Black Just murder, while others linked it to an alleged robbery involving Irv Gotti and Ja Rule. A few months later, Big Nose Troy was also fatally shot. As the number of homicides continued to grow, law enforcement took notice. By 2002, police had gathered enough evidence to arrest Kenneth Supreme McGriff on several murder charges. During the investigation, Supreme even pointed to Ghetto Quran as potential evidence against him. But when detectives questioned 50 for further insight into the lyrics, he simply replied, "Just listen to the record." Meanwhile, Murder Inc. began facing serious legal scrutiny. In 2003, Irv Gotti came under investigation, and by 2005, he was officially charged with laundering money for Supreme, a development that threatened to collapse the entire label. In the end, Gotti was acquitted, with the jury finding him not guilty on all counts. Supreme, however, wasn't as fortunate. He was convicted in federal court for drug trafficking, racketeering, and multiple murders.
50 up there. Cream, dude, you know the old school shit. You know what 50 did? Yeah, my nigga.
Do it back, yeah.
Yeah, my nigga.
That's
you know what the block did?
Yeah, that's what
And just like that, one of the most notorious street figures was permanently removed from the scene. Relying on testimony from a known hitman, along with incriminating text messages and video footage, prosecutors proved that Supreme McGriff paid $50,000 to have people killed. When the justice system caught up to him, it hit hard. All of McGriff's and Irv Gotti's assets were confiscated. McGriff eventually couldn't even afford legal representation. He had to rely on a court-appointed lawyer. On April 9, 2007, he received the maximum penalty, life in prison. One of the most feared names in the streets was officially gone. The attempt on 50 Cent's life changed everything. Before the shooting, people admired his drive and music, but after surviving 9 gunshots, his image transformed. He became a symbol of resilience, strength, and survival. That moment didn't just shift the course of his career, it sent ripples through the entire hip-hop industry. .so, when critics question why he travels with heavy security, they miss the bigger picture. It's not about fear, it's about being cautious. After everything he's faced, protecting himself isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. 50 understands the risks and isn't about to let history repeat itself. If you've stayed with us this far, you already know this story has been intense. Make sure to drop a comment, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and share this with someone who should hear it. Catch you in the next one.